didn't know if you'd have the mask on or not have the mask on. But either way, I was going to ask you
what's the mask?
Great question.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
What is Petrol Horse? Tell me. I mean, everyone's going to ask you that, but I want to know that.
Oh no! What is Petrol Horse? Petrol Horse. I don't know, man. I just work here. Right? Yeah. So Petrol Horse is variously the thing I'm most proud of, and also the bane of my life. It's a musical horse, isn't it? That's it. When we get down to the core of it, that's
definitely a musical horse. So when I came into contact with you, the first time I saw you was on stage, which is what we were talking about before, I guess. I saw you on stage, and I'd never heard or seen any Petrol Horse content, and I can't remember what the billing was, but you guys came on, and I was like, wow, okay, I love this. Why? And I know why I love it, but like, it wasn't just me. I was in a crowd, and everyone was jamming. Everyone that I could see anyway, and I was not right at the front, so I could see a good bunch of people in there. People were loving it, but I got the vibe, like, I didn't know if it was your crowd, if it was people who come to see you, if it was people who had no fucking clue what they were seeing, and this was the first time they'd seen it. But there's this real like energy, there's this real characters, there's this vibe. I think you came on stage with like a gimp. I have no idea what your normal lineup is, but it was. And I think you came on to, there was like an intro track, and then there was your track, I think Horse Problems was, I think you went straight in with Horse Problems. And so I was going to ask you, it's funny, but it's not just funny. It's also, obviously you've got a bunch of stuff going on that is a range of styles. And then you've also got the comedy. So where the hell did it come from? Like, where did Petrol Hoers come from?
Okay. So the kind of the origin story is a peek behind the curtain. The origin story is I just one day, I used to work in a school, right? So you get your summer off, and you got to find something to do for like 8 weeks, and then a couple of other holidays. And I bought a horse mask because it was at the time when everyone was doing stuff with horse masks. And I was at a gig with Petrol Bastard, and I just said to them, like, I've got 2 weeks off coming up. I might just do an album. Can I just use your songs so I don't have to write them? And I will be a horse. And that's what I did. I did like a track a day and just blasted out this album. And I was like, cool. That kept me entertained for 2 weeks. And then I got put on a gig, which is not the same thing as being offered a gig. I saw a poster that had me on it, and I was like, oh, I'd better show up and play that then, I suppose. And that's the truth as well. Like that's what happened. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. But it's kind of turned into this this exploration of the idea. This is an idea that I've held for like a long time. I've done music stuff for years, and like, doesn't matter what you do as long as you, like, musically, as long as you do it with confidence and do it as hard as you can, then it works and people dig it. And that happens every time we play anywhere. I don't think we've ever had like a genuinely negative reception anywhere. Everyone, like, well, okay, maybe not everyone loves it, but it works. You be a horse as hard as you can, and people come along for the ride.
It's that's a horse pun. it's the energy that you guys bring, you know, like, and I was going to ask you, like, you are Petrol Horse, right? So what is Petrol Horse, the act? Is it like, is it always the same people? I've seen you, I think I've seen you twice. Is it usually the same people? Is it, because I think you had like some, you had some backup dancers, man. Like, and they got the crowd going. It was amazing. It was a theater experience as well as a music experience. And like, that sucked me in because I like theatrical stuff. And you talk about like making an album in 2 weeks, and I'm a big Bowie fan. It's very station to station, making an album in 2 weeks. Credit to you, but like, I have no idea how you did that because it takes me like 2 weeks to make half a song. But also, B, like getting that energy wherever that comes from, then taking that from a studio onto stage. You must be fucking rammed with energy. Are you taking some crazy substitutes? Like, I know you're in the gym all the time. You sing songs about skating fast and making gains, man. Like,
yeah. Like, I know, like, people I know tell me I'm the most chilled out person they know, but that's because you have to you channel it somewhere, like get it out somehow, and like that kind of like horses are raw, anxious energy. That's what they are. They are just like, if you were to just distill, kind of chaos and yeah, and like I say, kind of a little bit of anxiety and just cram it into a quadruped. That's a horse, and like, yeah, the energy, the part of doing it as hard as you can. You have to have that energy. You can't just be there and just kind of do the thing, you know, like, so yeah, I have a group of I guess supporting characters. We do, whoever is available like comes to the live shows, and yeah, we just try to give it everything, like, yeah, and yeah, supplements. Like, no, I used to I used to do gigs fueled on Buckfast, which lent a certain kind of a certain flavor of energy to the whole experience. I've stopped doing that now, and so like I do them sober now, and it's just the spirit of the horse
there's a
just
line at the
pouring
end
out.
of, I can't remember which song it is. There's a line at the end of one of your songs, and it's the bit about Buckfast being a horse pun and how you've wasted your best horse pun on making that point. And it's fantastic. I didn't realize that you actually did the gigs hammered on Buckfast originally. That's great. So I was going to ask you about comedy and music. Like, is it funny for you? It's fucking funny to watch, but at the same time it's this weird thing. So as an audience member, and it's probably different for different people, but for me it's funny, but also I don't know how you bridge this gap. Like, it's both got like go and see a stand-up gig where you're expecting comedy and that's the main thing you go for because people are obviously at a gig and they're there for the music. What's your relationship with music and comedy and whatever happens where the two come together? Because for me, it's, as an audience member, it's really enjoyable, and I don't know what I'm there for, but I'm loving it. It's great.
I so like I it, the so the comedy is deliberate, but yeah, it's a fine line. I really like the kind of more the surreal, the weird stuff than the thing where you're kind of laughing, but you're laughing nervously because you don't know if you're supposed to laugh. And does this guy know that he's doing this? Like, he's doing it, and does he know that he's doing it? And it's kind of funny, but am I laughing at him or am I laughing with him? And does he know that I'm laughing? And I really I like that energy. Like, that's where I kind of I thrive there. And so yeah, like I try to put some comedy into the lyrics occasionally, but I don't want to be too try hard with that. It's more the kind of like yeah, like the kind of that weirdness, and also the way I see it, it's only funny if the music is good. Like, it has to be done well, executed well, but still leave that question of like, but seriously, why is this guy here doing this? Um, yeah, like that. That's kind of that's how I see. Like, I don't mind. Like, you know, I've played with, listened to and played with like plenty of more like explicit comedy acts, and that's cool, and I like a lot of them. But yeah, I try to stay in the grey area.
You've obviously have a stage act, and I think, you know, everyone that makes music at the moment, I imagine a lot of people watching this will be people who are, you know, either haven't been able to go to a gig for ages, or they have, you know, not been able to perform for ages, one or the other, or a mixture of both. And you've got a group of people that it's sort of a whoever turns up and whoever can turn up as part of the ensemble. What's it been like the last year or so for you? Where are you at the moment? What are you thinking about doing with Petrol Hoers coming out of whatever it is that we're coming out of at the moment, you know, with the lockdown situation and everything? Where are you at as a maker of stuff?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I've still been making stuff. I love playing live, but I'm possibly happiest when I'm sat twiddling knobs and actually making the music. So I've kept doing that. I've got a load of tracks that I just need to finish, and I'm going to be releasing at some point soon. And so it has been weird. I did one gig as a like a recorded video thing back in, it was a few months ago now, at the Fulford Arms, and that was great. It was like there was no audience. It was just, you know, we're in there, we had the speakers on and the lights and everything, and it all had to be, we had to be really careful about all the, you know, the safety, social distance inside of it. But and it was like, so that was kind of just enough to kind of keep me going with that without you know, without missing that too much. But I mean, I have hit the point that I'm booking gigs again. We just booked a tour for October because we kind of said, well, October's kind of, it'll either be okay or it won't. I guess we'll see what happens. Because I do want to get back to playing. Because like, but the other thing is like, for me, I released my last album in, oh wow, like September or end of August in 2019, and I then literally like 2 days after I released it, I broke my ankle like really badly, and I was off my feet for like 12 weeks or something, like, and so I had all this stuff going on. I had radio play, I had national radio play, and all this stuff, and it just as I'd worked really hard to set this all up and start this momentum going, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I can't capitalize on it. I was planning to go out and do a load of shows, and I just couldn't. And then just as I was starting to get better, then the event happened. Mm-hmm. And so like it's been like, I think I managed to get like one gig in the February before everything shut down, and even that was kind of me just feeling it out and being like, can I do this yet? So yeah, I've had that, like I say, that show that I did that kind of kept me going, but like I've not been able to properly gig for like 2 years now, basically. So yeah, I've decided that I just, as soon as I can get back into it, I'm there. Like I say, we've booked this tour. We're looking at doing more for next year, and if it goes ahead, it goes ahead, and if it gets cancelled, then we just push it back and do it when we can.
I suppose you've got the advantage of I suppose everyone going back in has got this sort of advantage now of, if it gets pushed back, it gets pushed back. But it's probably just going to be the same thing pushed back. It maybe isn't a load of reorganizing. Hopefully, if bands don't break up and things like that, you can just go, yeah, we'll put it on the back burner and then we'll come back in. And hey, you've been making stuff in the meantime, by the sound of things as well. So can we expect more Petrol Hoers?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have a solid plan yet. I'm pretty quick at writing music. I'm really slow at writing lyrics. So I've got just tons and tons and tons of music done, like ready to roll. I just need to write words for them all. And then, so yeah, I'm going to keep releasing. I can't see myself stopping ever stopping releasing stuff, because that's what I do. That's just what I do. I make music, like I, and like doing music for like horse music is fun to make.
Have any horses listened to your music other than Petrol Horse, obviously? They've played it for horses.
Horses. I don't know. Not while I've been there. I've never seen a horse at a show.
That'd be
obviously,
amazing.
I mean, obviously, I've seen one horse at a show, but never seen another horse at a show. So, I mean, that might be something to test. That maybe do some focus groups.
I've seen people playing like trombone to cows. I feel like this is like the extreme end of the trombone to cows spectrum of performance. It's so
that'd be quite cool. Just go and do a show for a load of horses.
Just show for horses, man. Making music by yourself, I assume, is what you do most of the time. I know that you've got a history of being in other acts, or certainly another act that I quite like anyway. What do you find, like, in terms of making music by yourself? Do you find it easier? You say you produce stuff quick, which you clearly do. I mean, you put an album together in a couple of weeks. Like, how's that process for you?
It has its overall. I think I prefer it. But it does have its downsides as well, and sometimes like working with other people is better in some ways. But like I tend to I don't. Sometimes I sit down with the intention of, right, I'm going to make a track, and I'll kind of, or I've got an idea in my head, I'm going to get it down. Sometimes I'll just be sat doing something else, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I've got an idea. I'll just bash this, I don't know, 8-bar loop out and do. I kind of go through phases where I do a lot of experimentation with, like, musically and also with production. I'm always trying to get better at the production side. And then when I've got a load of ideas floating around, I can just kind of pull it all together and polish it up. Although, so like the thing that happened with Petrol Horse, like as it started, so yeah, I did that album in 2 weeks, and that was actually, at that point, that was a real change for me, because all the stuff that I've done before, I agonize over making tracks. It would take me I'd spend like weeks on one track and trying to get it exactly how I wanted it, but the end result didn't sound like a track that you spent weeks on. It was, like the extra effort wasn't achieving anything, and so it was like a kind of a decision I made was to just basically YOLO it and say, like that first one where it was an explicit limit that I placed on myself, 1 track a day, and at the end of the day, whatever I finished is it, and it's going on the album, and it's not getting touched again. And so I don't quite stick to that, like that strict limitation anymore. But I've tried now to be a lot less precious about the stuff that you're making, like rather than take one nugget of shit and try and polish it for as long as you can, like just keep doing stuff and then pick out the good stuff and bin everything else. But yes, I've been trying to, like, more recently, I've been producing as I've not been releasing as Petrol Horse. I've been producing a lot of techno and like acid techno, which it's a whole different way of thinking about music and thinking about production. So I'm trying to, I do stuff like that, and then I try and bring those ideas back into this, which is more of a melting pot of everything that I do. So yeah, like I say, trying to learn new techniques and stuff all the time.
There's something really interesting in that for me. I went back in a couple of days ago. I was listening back to all of your stuff that I sort of had access to, which is great because you're on Spotify, so it's pretty accessible broadly. And I was listening and I was thinking stylistically, So there's references in some of the titling, like "Help Me, I'm in Horse," to to sort of some industrial stuff, and then there's other stuff in there when you listen to things in some of the remixes as well. It's much more techno. Like I'm listening to it thinking there's this real like you say, it's a melting pot of styles. So you've obviously got a background and an interest in a range of things. If you were going to pick a bunch of acts to play, and this is kind of a bit of a left field question, it's a bit. I hope it didn't take you off guard, but like, if you were to do a lineup, who would you see yourself sitting with if you were to put yourself on the bill? Yeah.
Okay. So
like a horse fest. I think it would be like the third horse fest now or something.
It would be the fourth horse fest. So if I were to book a horse fest, and if if money was no object, then I could get
yeah. Let's say you could get whatever act.
Okay, so like, I'm gonna get. No, I'm not going to be mean. Right. I would probably have to put on Atari Teenage Riot.
Nice.
Yeah, good choice.
Because I am not a fan of the more recent stuff, but like the original releases are, like definitely formative for this what I'm doing now. So we'd have them on. I would probably get someone like Drumcore, who is kind of breakcore, kind of like glitchy breakbeats and guitars kind of stuff. I would probably put oh wow, who would we go with? I put Petrol Bastard on because we're both in the same extended universe, so they'd have to be on the bill. And I'd do one more. I'd put no, I was trying to think of a silly comedy answer, but I got nothing. I don't know, probably a punk band. Probably someone like Pig Destroyer, like some grind.
Oh.
A little bit of grind.
Yeah, although I guess maybe that might not. Maybe a few years ago they would have fitted better on a bill with me, but I guess I think I've moved away a bit from the noisier, grindier stuff.
It's funny because like when I saw you, I was sort of, I can't remember what the rest of the bill was, but and Dom might remember, it might have been a BGB or it might have been something else, which might have been more of a punk night potentially, right?
We did with Birthmarks, Bone Cult, and The Thing. You're
right. It was a night you put together, and it was a real range of styles when I think about it. So you've got like a theatrical kind of alt. I don't know what you would call Bone Cult, but it's a theatrical kind of vibe because they've got the lasers, they've got the masks, and then obviously you've got the costume and the mask and things. And I think The Thing we're on, and we don't really have costumes when we play as The Thing, but it's a theatrical experience because it's half an hour of fucking noise. Like, so I think it's hard for me trying to be like Petrol Hoers. Who would I put you guys on with? Now, I know it's more Dom's sphere of the world than me. I'm not such like a promoter, curator of different bands and things, but like what I enjoyed was how it stood out from the stuff around it. But it didn't like minimize the other stuff, because obviously if you've got a night of just all punk bands and then you've got Petrol Hoers, you're going to be like, oh, there was that thing that was totally different. It was actually a night where a lot of the acts were totally different to each other, but something about Petrol Hoers really jumped out. And so as someone who like makes stuff that goes on stage, that enjoys surreal stuff, both in music and in theatre, I sometimes think back to that gig that I first saw you, and I was like, wow, that came out, for me, that totally came out of left field. What was it about it that made it work? Like so much, like where was the chemistry that made that something that I remember, something that I love? And yeah, some of it is because the like, in the way you compose some of your songs. I think it's in Horse Problems where there's that break in the track and you just do the you talk over it and you talk about going to the processed meat aisle at the supermarket, grabbing a processed sausage and trying to jerk it off with a pair of half bricks to emulate how it must feel to be a horse and the amount of stress and tension that the horse is going through. And I fucking love it. That totally stuck with me. It's that was funny.
Man. It's a bang.
It's funny.
That's like, I do I like because then there's just like a kind of a few seconds of silence after that bit that I am not. I am not too proud to say that is a vanity silence so that I can hear if people laughed or not, and they usually do.
It's important. You've got to have that relationship with your audience. In fact, it's totally a perfect segue, because what I was going to say was about the relationship with your audience. I remember midway through, and I think I've got a photograph somewhere of Dom. I've got a photograph of you with a zebra mask on, being the zebra, and you're rocking out in the pit to Petrol Horse. And I have no idea where the zebra mask came from. I know you didn't bring it. But
well, Petrol Horse is made up of numerous musical sort of figures in the York scene, depending on who can make it at the time. So you have Dave, who is, I'm not sure of his stage name, but he's the wrestler, isn't he? So you have Dave, who's the wrestler, Dave McDermott from No Como Crease and Mag 7. And you had Chris Sherrington, who was, what did he go by?
Wesley Stripes.
Wesley Stripes, there you go. You have Chris Sherrington, who, of course, runs the Fulford Arms as part of Petrol Horse. And you had a bunch of different people have been in. I once came up with a concept name for myself to join Petrol Horse, but I won't bring it onto the stream. I'll keep it for a surprise if we ever do it. I know Dan knows what it is. But yeah, it's a collective of people just having fun. I think a lot of people, Petrol Horse was, it's just a vehicle for people to have fun and a vehicle for your musical. Me and Dan, we've known each other for a long time, and I always said you were a bit of a musical genius. And it's just kind of fun because as far as I remember, dude, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's a direct response to your frustration at making tunes, slaving over tunes, touring those tunes around the country, and not getting not the recognition that you wanted, but not just not enjoying it. You didn't enjoy it very much. And Petrol Horse was like, right, fuck this. I'm going to just be a horse, have fun, make beats, play songs in my pants or boxers or briefs. And
sometimes not.
And sometimes not, And I think it was as far as I'm aware, it was a response to your frustration with Digicore and all the other bands that you kind of joined and were a part of, but they weren't, they were touring, but you hated touring for a time. I think you still hate touring, right?
I'll tell you once I go on this tour.
Yeah,
I guess. Like writing songs about like feelings and stuff is cool, but it turns out that just being a horse is more cool.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a horse with feelings. The horse is frustrated. You can feel it. I love it. Something about channeling. You were talking about surrealness. It's like the absurdity of channeling the frustration through the horse. Maybe, I don't know, man. Petrol Horse is pretty frustrated, and I love it. It's great. It's so angry. It's like he's not angry about being a horse. Maybe in horse problems, but a lot of times he's angry at other stuff, and that's great. And you can sympathise with it. And then you're listening to it, being like, I feel like this horse. And it's great. Makes you question things. It's
put you in the mind of a horse.
Yeah, man. Where, I don't know where you're going on tour. I mean, you might have some pretty ideal venues on there. Like, where do you want to play? Have you got like anywhere that you'd love to just like, if you could like bucket list play as Petrol Horse and smash it out?
I really want to do more. I really want to do more festival shows because we did. We played Beat Herder a couple of years ago on the washing machine stage, which was the guys from. Oh no, I'm about to. Right? Sorry, say again.
Young Thugs Records. Was it
yes, yeah, Young Thugs. That's it. Save my bacon there. I thought I was gonna forget their name. But yeah, and we played that, and that was awesome because. It's like all the stuff we talked about, all the stuff that I've said about how it's a bit weird and people don't know what's going on. But then, because it was a festival environment where people are wandering in and out, and also there were a lot of pharmaceutical enthusiasts in the audience, so who were just wandering in and going, what the hell is this? And you could almost hear their minds just splitting down the middle. So yeah, like more. I don't even want to play the big stages Just the little ones, the one where where it's tucked away in a corner, and you say, "Oh, something interesting will be going on in here," and then you're not ready, and you come out changed.
I love those. I love the like. You go to a big festival, but you go see whatever's on at like 2 a.m. on some tiny stage, and it's not tiny. Yeah. It's actually as big as your local venue, but it's tiny by festival standards. And there's like there's a bit of space between people. There's maybe 60, 80 people in there, and they're all having a fantastic time. And now that looks normal because that's socially distanced. But pre-COVID, like you're like, wow, people are, but because of space, but people are jamming, and you're like, this is great.
Yeah,
I love that. I like wandering into those tents, being off some massive gig. You've just seen someone huge, and then you come and you just go and look for something at a festival, and you walk into something. I absolutely love that vibe. I feel like Petrol Horse would steal the show in somewhere like that, because again, it's because, like you say, it's people wander in. And I think if you wander into that, it's spellbinding. You kind of go, not only can you not wander out before you know what it is, some people maybe come in, turn around and leave, like Abe Simpson in that Simpsons movie, like through the door, turn around and out. But like other people, like myself, most people I know, I think you'd walk into something like that and be like, now I have to stay to see what the fuck this is.
It's an experience.
I would like to think that there's an element of like, I've walked in partway through and it looks like I've missed something and I don't want to miss anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was always an experience, I think. Always an experience. Like everything with Petrol Horse was, you can't define it to anyone, but you want to show them. You know what I mean? Like Petrol Horse is that band or that act. Not because you're my friend and we've known each other for a long time and I appreciate your musical skill, but just because it's just you can't describe it. And in a world where people go, this is my band and I can't describe it, we're completely unique, and all the press bollocks that you and I have seen over the years, Dan, Petrol Horse is actually the band that you're like, it's a dude who dresses like a horse, who writes about being a horse, but the musical craftsmanship is actually pretty fucking great. And you don't have to worry about, do you know what I mean? It's just good fun. It's just good fun.
You know what's like it's a bit of a nightmare, like trying to book gigs. And so like I'll go to a promoter who I've maybe doesn't know my stuff, and it's like I believe in my act. I believe in this act. I think that I do. I'm proud of it. I think it's good, and I know people enjoy it. But trying to write like in an email, why should you book me? And it's like, well, you kind of just have to see, and then that doesn't cut it. So yeah, that is part of the existential horse nightmare.
It writes itself, man. It's the horse that plays break. I mean, that's how I would promote it. I've done a few press releases for you in my time. It sells itself. There are a few bands, as you and I have had many conversations about, right? There are a few bands where you have to really work to find the unique selling point, right? And there were two bands that I've worked on where I didn't have any difficulty doing it, right? And one was Bull. You know how successful Bull are now, the indie band, right? Yeah, very, very young, very, very sort of on point indie sound. The other one was Petrol Horse because it sells itself, from a press standard anyway. People go, what is this that I'm watching? And so it was a lot of fun to promote that. And I think if I was still doing that full time, I would do more of that stuff, because it was really fun to promote, because people just had fun listening to it. And I think people have fun watching it live. And, whenever I need a build filling, if I'm booking shows, and if I ever begin booking shows again, I want to put Petrol Horse on just so I can have that, what is this, factor. And I know it's an excuse for us to hang out, but equally it's it's a, see Dave and stuff, but it's also like people love it, people dig it, and people always go, what the fuck is this? And I love that. I love that,
There's something really magical, I think, about I think Dom nailed it before when it's theatrical, it's interesting, people want to know what it is, but also it's actually really musically entertaining to listen to, not just because it's funny and not just because it's different, but it's actually like your production and your composition is to my taste, like I absolutely love it. Like, and I think probably to a lot of people's taste. So it'd be really interesting to hear what you've been working on and what's coming at the pipeline, because I've been listening to. I can't remember what the bundle of the tracks together is called as an EP or album. I call it Horse Problems. That's possibly what it's called. But that's that selection of like 8-9 tracks. It's become part of my like staple loop of stuff. But what's funny is it bleeds into
part
like
of your stable, Kieran.
my stable of stuff. Yeah, man. Hey, it's like mixed in with other shit. But what's funny is like it comes on mixed in with like some like really serious, like mopey, fucking alt rock or metal or some really like theatrical metal that all sit in there, and it just sits well with everything. I think you've got a really amazing thing going on, man. I'm looking forward to hearing what comes out of the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, just a couple more questions from my end. I think I almost want to ask you directly, but it feels quite uncomfortable to ask when I'm like, do you hate what you did with Digicore? And do you hate the band stuff?
No, I like, so like, if well, as far as I'm aware, like most artists are never satisfied with their art, right? That's a thing, isn't it? Yeah. That's not just me. Like, and so that stuff is stuff that I made like, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Yeah. And I have got better since then. So I don't hate it, but I listened to it recently, in fact. And it's okay. If it was someone else's music, I would politely listen to it and then say, oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then say nothing else. So no, I don't hate it. It's I wouldn't be a horse now without having done that.
Yeah.
So how could I hate it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's part of your growth and development, part of your graduating from a foal to a foal, almost.
Yeah. It was some kind of like weird proto horse that should not be.
Yeah. I mean, I remember loving that stuff, but again, you as the artist, you know, it feels like, from my perspective, kind of listening to you talk about it over the years, it was part of who you are, but it's not something that you want to be defined by. Whereas Horse and the techno stuff you're doing now feels like you're much more comfortable in that. You're much more comfortable in that skin. You're much more comfortable in this world, and more comfortable as an artist than you were when you were doing Digicore, when you were joining Action Direct or whatever it was back in the day. You're more comfortable with yourself now.
Yeah, well, okay. So we're getting kind of real now. So like, I am happier now, as an artist and as a person for doing this stuff that I do now. Like the stuff that I used to do, like at the time I was very into it and it was what I wanted to do, but it kind of always felt a little bit phony. Like it was, I don't know, like maybe not so much musically, but like certainly lyrically, it was. I think I meant it when I wrote it, but then kind of it started to feel less and less like me as time went on, and then this with Horse, like it just feels more like an actual reflection of me. Like if we cut through all the layers of silliness, like this is more who I am. Like it's the weirdness and the kind of comedy, but there's some serious stuff in there if you sift for it.
Yeah. I mean that moves me on nicely to my sort of, you know, apart from the promo question, well, we'll get you to talk about all the stuff, you know, all the stuff to plug. You know, you and I have talked, you know, over the years about success and what it means, and you know, because you've been signed to a label, and we all know about, you know, well, we know about that. You know, and you've toured around the country and you've played different shows and whatever. And a lot of people look at that, you know. So, for example, if there were a young person who wanted to be successful in music, they might look at your career and go, wow, I want to be signed to a label. I want to play X, Y, and Z venue. I want to play Beat Herder or whatever. But the reality of doing that is always different to the perception. And I wanted to ask you about how sort of perception versus reality is kind of played into. I mean, obviously, you are a horse when you play now, so there's a perception of you there, but you've found yourself through that. So, but I guess, you know, as someone that's achieved a lot of dreams musically, you know, how do you define success now? I guess, yes. That's the crux of that question, is how do you?
Okay, yeah, I get you. Well, I thought we were getting real with the previous question, and here we are now. But that's cool. Yeah, okay. So like, success is fucking weird. Like, how do you define success? Like there's, I grew up thinking I was going to be a rock star, but what the fuck is a rock star? Like, you kind of, success is whatever you define it as, and different, and success looks different to different people, and that's fine. That's not like, that's, to me, that's not a mistake. That's by design. That's how it should be. Like, the only valid measure of success is how you define it. So like, yeah, like, if what you want to do is earn your living from making music, then that's cool. That's as with any other like goal or aspiration, that's awesome. That's great. That's genuinely, sincerely, go for it. But what that looks like is probably, you know, might not be what you think it looks like. Like, if you want to make a living from music, like, go and join a function band, or, you know, like, go and something that pays steadily. But yeah, like, I enjoy what I do now a lot more because I'm not trying to be a success in the way that other people would define it, which is what I used to try and do. Like, what I had this idea of success from what I thought other people thought success was, and I was chasing that. And now I just look at what do I think is success, and the good thing about that is I can set the bar as low as I want. So like, yeah, write some music, play some shows, and don't get me wrong, like, as I've said a few times while we've been chatting, like, I'm proud of what I do with this band, like, and some of the stuff I've achieved. Like, I'm really happy about it. But if it came down to it, if all this was about was me sitting in my stables just writing music and occasionally chucking them up on Bandcamp, then that would be fine.
Yeah.
For me,
it's liberating, I think, right? In some respects, creating that relationship with success and realizing that you steer what that definition of success is. When you get to the point where you start to have that relationship with the things that you do, I think it's actually really productive. I don't know, but I think it, by the sound of things, is for you. Certainly for me, it's productive, and I feel like that's probably the case for a lot of people once they've had some experience with maybe getting to the goals that, you know, Don was talking about. You've done this, you've toured, you've been signed, you've done these things, and actually, you know, you're still doing stuff, and it's almost like, well, if you had succeeded and those were like targets or goals, then why would you keep doing? And actually, sometimes when you get faced with that question of, well, why the fuck am I doing this? Yeah. And that's when you start realizing, or having to grapple with, what it is actually that is your success, right? Like, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, not to put too fine a point on it, then I ended up just, I had those thoughts, and now I'm a horse.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So nay, absolutely. Yeah. No, man. I mean, that's, you know, it's a good message to send to people. And I think one of the cool things I've always loved about you, man, I think one of the greatest musical compliments, because obviously we've talked over the years. I've tried to be in bands, and I've played in bands and whatever. I remember walking out of the Fulford Arms once after we played with, I think it was Twins, with me and Max, and you actually were like, yeah, you were like, dude, I actually like this band. I'm not pretending to like it. And this is going to come to a question. By the way. So I always respected that you were like, okay, this is the truth, and I guess because we do a lot of work, I do a lot of work with young people, and a lot of people ask me for advice about music and stuff. People, when I do interviews and stuff, people go, "Oh, be true to yourself," stick to your vision and go for it, which is lovely. It's a lovely message, but a lot of these people are selling millions of records or a few thousand records, right? And you obviously sell music as well, and you do very well, and you have done well in that regard. But the reason why I bought that comment that you made to me was that I can always count on you to be honest about things, even if it doesn't sound great sometimes. And so if you were going to advise any music makers who whether they were inspired by the Horse or whether they wanted to be the next Trent Reznor or, Alec Empire, whatever, what tips and advice would you give to any young music makers on how to, find that fulfillment that you have found now as a Horse?
I just want to say, by the way, that like I remember that night when I said that to you, and then I remember like I don't know, a year or two later when you brought it up again, and I was fucking mortified. And what an awful thing for me to say to you, and I'm sorry.
No, I'm really proud. I was really proud of it because I think we've done the goth blues thing with Sticky Back Plastics before, and then we had Sleep Away. And then Twins it felt good. And then I think I didn't ask you because I didn't ask you. I think you told me, and a lot of the times, I think before I was sort of and that's something I don't really need anymore, which is good. But like I was seeking that validation because I always respected you as sort of on a musical level as well as a person. And it was just nice to have that. So don't apologize. It was good. It was just
so the actual answer to that question. All right. So to how to find this kind of fulfillment, like okay, we'll do it on a touchy feely level, then we'll do it on a more pragmatic kind of practical advice level. So on the touchy feely level is like I'm trying to think of a way to say this. It doesn't sound just like complete twee bullshit, but like, do what you want to do, but like decide what you want to do. Like, it doesn't fucking matter if you do it, as long as you do it as long as it's what you want to do, then fucking who cares? Like, who gives a shit what anyone else thinks? But also like, if you are looking to make some kind of success of it by whatever metric you define that, then just do whatever it is as hard as you can. Like, because like I'm the fucking living proof that kind of seems to pay off. But then like on a practical level, don't completely ignore what other people are doing like musically. Do what you want to do your own thing, but try and make sure that you're aware of the context in which that you're doing it. So like it's okay to, not everything you do has to be completely different from everything else that is out there. And in fact, you can benefit from learning about how to do other stuff, like learn how to write songs in other styles, learn how to produce music in different styles, learn about different types of performance, like even like think about even like you might be, if you're a musician, it might pay off to know a little bit about theatre performance. It might know or even like physical performance, like juggling. Like I know that sounds really dumb, but like it's like the core of what I'm trying to say is like don't let anyone else tell you what to do, but don't pretend that nothing else exists either. So be aware of where you fit in to like musically, but don't feel like you're being forced to fit in a specific place.
Yeah.
Does that kind of?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I maybe lost focus on that towards the end there.
Yeah. Do your own thing, but don't being ignorant to what's around you, basically.
Yeah, and towards the end of that, actually, it's funny you say about losing focus, but actually that chimed really true for my experience, both in music and other things. And a lot of it, I think, is to do with, it's not just about not being ignorant, but it's about growth, I think, and when you're aware of what's around you. So take an example of, you go see a band and they sound like all the other bands that are on a night, and okay, maybe that's the person who's put the bill together has grouped together a bunch of bands that sound like each other, and that's fine, and that maybe that's what the audience love. But you know what's amazing as an audience member, you've got a bunch of bands that kind of sound like each other but also have some variety between them, and perhaps you go to see 3 bands that sound sort of like each other, but there's 2 bands on the act that drift out of that, and you as an audience member are picking up new stuff as well. And so I think, like, it stops you from being the audience to yourself like that, almost. If you make sure as a musician, you're always, or whatever, as an artist, you're always an audience to other people, and you don't silo yourself off away from other people. And that seems to be like it seems to speak to what you were saying, about finding this other stuff as well, like, and keeping going.
And I think, and another thing, like the more specific to, because the stuff I do at the minute is kind of, it's away from, it's not exactly completely pop music, but so, and that those are the circles that I move in, and I do like noise performance, I do other stuff. Like, you might say to yourself, well, I don't want to sound like pop. I hate pop music and I don't want to sound like it. You still have to know what pop music sounds like if you want to not sound like it.
Yeah.
So that's like an example of like,
it's a really
Yeah,
it's a really interesting way of putting it. Actually, that's very fair. You do need to, how can you know what you don't like if you don't go and try stuff, basically, right? Like, and that applies to audiences, applies to musicians. I think that's really true. Like, it's good to know, and also you can hear it in your music. I think you can hear that variety and trying of different things, and it makes it rich. Like, there's stuff going on. It's not all one tone. Listening to that EP that you put out in 2019, that there's sort of, across those tracks, there's such a variety of sound, and it speaks to your compositional and production capabilities, because you listen to it and it moves through these styles. One thing I would say, by the way, this is more a comment than a question. It's impeccably put together in terms of like the shift from one track to another across the thing. I love it. I love the shift in tones and styles across the thing, and the way it's the right track ordering. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. I mean, it's going to be really interesting seeing you play live again and get into how that works on stage. You talk about the theatre and the theatre of music, like seeing that on stage rather than just listening to it, because what you've got is an act that works on stage as well as it works on the record, and that's really that makes me really jealous. It's hard to do, man. It's hard to do. It's hard to get both. Like, that's pretty good.
Cheers. Absolutely. I mean, and just going back to the question, again, you've actually written songs, with little sort of raw bits of advice in there in terms of bands and artists. And, going back to that previous question, what's something that you wish people were told that you never hear them be told about music and about being on stage and about, sort of, again, I'm trying to think of the best ways, not trying to sound harsh, but like there's a lot of really, positive advice that goes around, like I said, be yourself, create something unique, do that. But then, that it's not always a real representation of what people need to do to stand out and be unique. So Dan, from the heart, no censorship, no trying to be like nice about it. What sort of raw key tips have you got for anybody who wants to work in music?
I don't know. What I'll give you is just a specific pet hate of mine. About bands that like don't fucking talk to your bandmates between songs, especially not on the mic. Like, like no good can come of it. And if you watch any semi-decent band, like they don't do it. Like, look, you're there to interact with the audience, whether like directly or just like even just like you're playing for your audience. You're not there for each other. Just fucking don't talk to each other in between the songs. Like, fine, banter with the audience, fine, if you can carry that off. Just fucking don't talk to each other. I don't know. Like, I'm not even claiming that I'm necessarily like objectively correct on that, but if I come and watch you and you're doing that, I'm fucking leaving.
I love it, man. You got to let the drummer lead. The drummer tells you when you start and stop, and that's about it. Usually, that's you don't want to be telling what to do. Like, yeah, nothing worse. Nothing worse. Yeah, I mean, from the theatre world as well, it's exactly the same. Like, you don't want to hear anything from backstage, man. That's the worst.
Yeah,
sat in the audience and you can hear it. It's like, shut up.
And even if, fuck, man, even if you're just a more traditional band, and you have some musicians playing instruments on stage, and that's there's no pretense of being a horse or some other thing. You're still in character, or you should be, or like not like you don't literally have to have a character you're portraying, but you kind of should be when you're on stage. When you're on, you should be on. Like it shouldn't necessarily be you who is there. It's the you. It's the band you. It's not the. It shouldn't be the you.
Artist.
You. Yeah, like. And that's part of it. So it's like, and it's only going to be for 30 fucking minutes. You can probably keep it together for that long. Like that, I think that's the thing. I personally think that's one of the things that sets apart like bands that are maybe still maturing and developing and maybe aren't quite there yet, to bands that are kind of, you can tell when you watch them, like the ones that they're on stage and they're on and they are, again, in character, kind of to an extent. Like, it makes a difference, and I think it's something that's worth practicing. It's something that's worth like actually thinking about and planning a bit. And yeah, and the extent of your plan might just be, we're just not going to talk to each other between songs. Or it could be something elaborate. It could literally be a character, and we're going to bring some theatrics into it and be a horse, or somewhere along that spectrum. But like, yeah, I think that's a kind of practical.
Cool. I like it. I like it, man. I mean, Kiran, have you got anything to add to that? I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff we've covered over the last hour. But I've really enjoyed kind of getting under the skin of the horse, which sounds really weird when I say that.
Like a sofa. No, man, I don't have anything to add. I don't have any more questions. I'm sure we've got some promo questions. So, but I was going to just close off on that last thing you said by saying, I think that thing about, that's such good advice, man. You don't hear that very often in an interview context. You don't hear people talking about presence and what it is to do the performance of music rather than just, writing the tracks and then playing the tracks. It's more, there's loads more to it than that. And I think that's really helpful. I hope someone listens to that and like, oh shit, that's what I've been doing wrong. I need to not talk to the bassist, like between songs, because it's really important. It creates the environment that the audience are going to be in. It's a performance at the end of the day. That's really cool. It's nice to hear that, man. It's nice to hear that.
Straight from the horse's mouth. That's what.
Hey-o.
That's what we're going to be. That's why I ask you. Again, we've fortunately known each other for a long time, and I think that a lot of the interviews that I do, again, people are promoting something. People are trying to they've got an image to promote. And you're a fucking horse. And you're also a real, you're a good dude. But although you wear a horse mask on stage, you're a musician who loves playing music without any kind of, sort of pretense. And so it's different. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because often the most real responses I get are when I say, look, what is it you wish you heard when you were starting out versus the kind of, and it's nice, isn't it? It's nice when you hear from your X, Y, and Z musician, be yourself, man, do your own thing, which is lovely. But sometimes you need to hear, don't talk to the fucking bassist, or, that kind of shit. And it does help. It does help, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah.
Sure, man.
Well, let's do the promo question, Petrol Horse. Where can people find you? What have you got coming up? You're on tour.
Yeah, okay. We're on tour starting the 15th of October, and we're doing I think we do 16 dates in October. You can it's Petrol Horse and also Petrol Bastard. And you can find out if you go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Petrol Horse. Please note the intentional misspelling of horse. It is HOERS. And all the dates are on there. And you can hear my stuff at on Bandcamp at petrolhorse.bandcamp.com, and you can buy my merch and stuff as well. I wouldn't say no to that. And yeah, that's yeah. I think that's it. I'll have new music soon. Fuck knows when. I don't know. This year, maybe, possibly.
Nice.
I'm gonna do the tour. I'll see what happens. Come and see me live, and you'll hear some of the new songs.
I was just about to say, do we get to hear some of the new stuff if we come and see you live? Because we'll be coming and seeing you live. So
yeah. For the first time in about fucking 4 years, I'll have some new songs in this set. That's quite exciting.
Excellent. And what is your message for the young foals, all the people that have supported you through your career as a horse, and before that, people that will continue to support you as Petrol Horse? What is your message for those people?
Fucking why? What's wrong with you?
So can't get it anywhere else. That's
Yeah.